The dream of changing the world while changing your life is achievable with the right hacks and tools. But where do you find them? Right here on the Tropical Entrepreneur Show with Josh Denning.
Josh Denning, the Tropical Entrepreneur, back with another episode of the show designed to help you achieve freedom through business. And we're very lucky to have Kris Reid here with us today. It's going to be a great show. Kris graduated from Queensland University of Technology in Brisbane, Australia as a software engineer. He then went off and did finance in London and then started backpacking his way around the world building a digital agency or an SEO company. Finally found himself in the Philippines where he built up a office there and got that successful, and to the point now where they've got multiple locations over the world, an office obviously in the Philippines, an office in Cambodia, and they're really making some waves and doing some big things in the industry to the point where they've built the business up into the seven-figure range. So that's awesome. Going to learn a stack on today's show about building agencies, about building them in different countries, about hiring the right people, about growing an agency, creating that business growth, business development, and lead generation, and essentially just how to build an awesome business. So that's Kris. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Josh. Thanks for having me.
It's an absolute pleasure to have you. So I've given the listener just a little bit of an overview of what you've been up to, Kris, but we'd love to hear a little bit about kind of the journey you've been on to where you are today and what you're doing now.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a hell of a ride. To be quick, I pretty much graduated university, moved over to London, had some great experience working in finance in, companies like Visa Europe and, working in the Square Mile. Then as the global financial crisis hit, I lost my job with everyone else in the world of finance. I went off backpacking around the place and tried to work out how, what I'm going to do. End up building this little game and an online game just for a bit of fun. And then I thought, well, how the hell am I going to get people to play this? And started learning a little bit about SEO. And I thought, well, geez, you can make some money out of this. And I built some software to kind of manage my clients, and then realized selling backlinks, which is a real critical part of SEO. It was easier to sell those sort of services to SEO companies. And it just rocketed from there. And, it's 6 years later, and we're growing stronger and stronger each and every month.
So I've got to ask you the question I ask everybody that comes on the show, and that's if you had to really think back over all of that experience and combine it into a chapter of a book that you were sharing with other experts to give to kind of 10,000 people that were looking to get to the next stage with their businesses or with their agencies or what have you, what chapter would you write? What would you name it? And what would the message be? What would you be teaching in that chapter?
One thing that I think it's critical is to try things and to fail fast. Don't be scared of failing. I mean, the amount of stuff that we've done, in fact, the majority of stuff we do does not work. It's just, you just got to try. And a good analogy that I read in a book actually was to fire bullets and then cannonballs. So you don't use all your resources and waste them. Don't spend all your money on one marketing channel to find that it doesn't work. Fire little bullets and just throw little cheap shots and see what works. And as soon as you find something that works, then throw everything you got at it. And that's how we found growth.
Yeah, that's a great analogy. And I think even with the firing the bullets first and then the cannonballs, that's a great way of saying it. You've kind of got to try to find initially, especially with those first few growth strategies that you try, once you've got a product that's selling and everything and you want to kind of get it moving a bit faster, you've got to find even maybe even the BB gun pellets, don't you? That is what's the littlest amount of money you can use to get the biggest amount of leads initially, and they might be crapper leads, and then you're slowly going to work up to better and better, more expensive, higher quality forms of lead generation. Have you kind of found that?
Oh, for sure. I mean, well, as any business starting, you've got very little capital and very, finite resources, and so you've got to be careful with it. But you test the market. We did everything from cold email, cold calling, postal letters, social media marketing, and any gimmick, different sales funnels, and the vast majority of it didn't work. But it's only through testing that you find out what does work, But
when you test as well, you've got to be willing to, so for example, we're gotten really, really good at generating leads with cold email now, but it took 9 months of A, B, C, D, E, F, G, H, I, J type testing of different things before we got like 3 to 5% of emails we send out now come back as a pretty good lead. You've got to be willing to just keep going with different ways of doing the things too, don't you?
Oh, for sure. I mean, like we do cold email marketing as well. And every time we'll generate a batch of leads, say we have 1,000, then we'll have 3 templates that we'll send 100 to each, and whichever gets the best response rate will then get the next 700 emails. So we test out 3 times, to see which one is most effective.
Do you keep changing that template every time you do a new test, or?
Yeah, we try and work out subject lines that get the best open rate, and then work on the body to try and get the best conversion rate.
So yeah, that was a great analogy. So try things and fail fast, and the majority of things you're not going to do aren't going to work, but you've got to keep doing them, and eventually you'll find those things that do work. So in terms of like business growth for you, what have been some of the most important things, some of the most useful things for growing your business?
Well, if you want to grow a business, I think you need to have staff, and to have staff, you need to find loyal people, which that love doing what they do. Like I was really blessed that our second ever employee that we hired 6 years ago online, she now runs our office in the Philippines, and she does a fantastic job. She's quite a young girl. She's only 25 or 26. And, so she's been with us ever since she was straight out of university. She had her first overseas trip last month. She flew over to our Cambodian office. So that was a great experience for her, and great experience to have her over here. And, I like to nurture your staff, like spend time finding out who they are, and, hiring right, getting that strategy down. Like this afternoon, I had an interview with an American girl who's in for social media marketing, and we just had a coffee in a coffee shop and just got to know each other and talked about her hometown and what kind of person she is. So it's really important to find that you get a really good fit of who they are and that they're passionate about what they want to do. Like I tried to ask, what would you do in social media marketing? Where do you see, how could you help our brand? And, I do think she'll be a really good fit, but it's because we have that relaxed style and trying to know who she is.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, we've definitely had some pretty bad experiences. We've had some very good ones of late, and we've been a bit lucky of late, but we've had some really bad ones that looked really good as well often. Mm-hmm. Have you developed a process at all for like really getting hiring right, for actually nailing it?
I mean, we still make mistakes too. Salesmen tend to be the hardest to hire because they're very good at sales. So, I mean, recently I hired a UK guy to be a salesman, and he seemed fantastic. Had a really great interview, went and had a beer with him and had a good old time. Like 3 days into the job, I gather he was just over his head. He made up some excuse about he had a death in the family and had to go back to the UK. And I said, that's fine. I mean, you're coming back, right? And he's like, oh, yeah, I'll be back in a week. I'm like, all right, we can wait a week. It's no problem. But, that was the last I ever heard of him.
What was his name?
I don't really want to go and name and shame.
It was exactly, I mean, how long ago was it? I mean, we probably don't have to go right.
That was just last month.
Because I actually had a UK guy do something almost exactly the same as that just a month before it, and he actually ran off with. He convinced me to advance him a month of salary at the beginning of his thing, and I said, look, after a week, like, show us what you can do, because he just seemed brilliant in the interview and had all this sales background and worked for a web company, had been back in the UK and had done all this stuff in recruitment, and then as soon as he got the advance, interesting. I mean, it's hard hiring people. It really is, especially salespeople, I think. And
you don't want to ever have to let anyone go too, because it's it upsets the team, and people like job security, and it's really terrible if you ever have to fire someone. So it's best to try and get it right in the first place,
So what are some of the steps you take now to try and get it right?
Well, with our Philippine staff, we have an IQ test, We have a computer test. I mean, because a lot of them are doing rather rudimentary stuff. We have software that manages their tasks, but we still need to make sure that they're smart enough to, education levels in the Philippines are not the same as the West. And so we give them a basic IQ test that has shapes and things like that. It's nothing to do with language, so anyone with a brain should be able to pass it. And and computer tests, like, do you know what, cut and paste and things like that. And I don't hire those people. My office manager in the Philippines does. And I try and put the same things that I've just said to you, is like, have a chat with them, sit them down, make sure they turn up to the interview on time, make sure they act professional, but then see what sort of person they are. Ask about their family and their values and, what they do on the weekend, and find out who they are,
And what are you potentially looking for as red flags?
Someone that doesn't seem committed, someone that's not friendly, that's not going to fit into the team. You want them to work with everyone else and mash with everyone else. You don't want a loner that it's not going to be much fun, But yeah, like I like to ask, do you live close to the office? Is it going to be a problem to get to work? What's your living arrangements? Is it convenient? How long have you been in the town for? Are you, especially hiring expats in Cambodia. It's like, well, how long have you been in Cambodia for? Are you really going to stick around? Like, I don't want to hire and train you in 3 months and then you go back home,
So that's some very valuable stuff definitely for anyone hiring, because really at the end of the day, if you're in it to build a fairly decent business that's going to make serious money and is going to become a robust company that adds a lot of value to a lot of people, really it's all about people at the end of the day, isn't it?
100%.
So that's some very valuable stuff there that you've just gone through, Chris. So what about in terms of, we had a bit of a discussion about this just before the call about lead generation. You're doing some really interesting stuff in that area. I'd love to hear a bit about it.
Yeah, so, as I said, we tried everything from cold calling me on the phones, just hammering out, calling people, and that was really not very effective. We've found cold email marketing works really well. And then a customer of ours that has become a friend of mine, he does snail mail marketing, so he does postal letters, and he convinced me to give it a go. And so we put together a lead gen list we work directly with SEO companies, and we did a lead gen of every company in Australia and sent out a bunch of letters, big, really quality letters. We split tested them again. One was a 4-page letter and one was a 7-page letter. The majority of the letters, testimonials from other SEO companies saying how great we are. And then it's pretty much just an offer to talk to me. It's not real salesy. It's like, let's have a Skype chat and I'll walk you through and show you how we can help build your business. And we use really high quality paper, really nice envelopes. They're all, addressed directly to the person. Hi, John, talks about their company name. They're hand addressed envelopes. So it looks really nice and people are happy to have it on their desks. I don't know what the open rate is because you can't measure that, but I'm sure it's very, very high. The response rate, straight away you get people, calling me, and the people that call me, boom, they're customers because they're dying to reach out to you. Then the ones we follow up with, the response rate, so many people are just happy that they got your letter and they're like, wow, that's really nice marketing. And the great thing with the letter, it sits on their desk. So we sent out this batch of letters in October or August last year. Just last month, a woman from Perth followed me up from a letter that she received almost a year ago and said, I've had this letter sitting on my desk, and she's a customer now. So they just sit there.
And what did you spend roughly on the mailing?
The printing costs are quite expensive because we use really expensive paper, and we print them out in our office in the Philippines and then send them in bulk to Australia. And just that postage is quite expensive. It costs about $250. And then, it's $1.40 to send each letter in Australia. So you're looking at about $4 a letter which might sound like a lot. So if you send out 1,000 of them, it's $4,000, which is a fair chunk of change. But if you compare that to cost per click, with PPC, AdWords or Facebook, that's pretty cheap,
Yeah, it is really. I mean, geez, our industry's like $20-$30 a click now in SEO.
Exactly. So $4 compared to $20 is way cheaper, and your conversion rate, if you're sending them to the right people, if you've got some great deal for dentists and you sent 1,000 letters to dentists, you're gonna get a good conversion rate. You probably at least have 10% response rate, and then if you can't convert half of those, your funnel's not real good.
So is that about what you did? 10% response, 50% converted?
Yeah, probably something around that. With any marketing that we do, we aim for 1%. Like that would be our minimum, that we need to get 1% to make sales. So, if the cost of the campaign was $1,000, we'd, however many we're targeting, that we need to get 1% to cover that. Like that's our break even point. And so anything above the 1% is gravy.
Yeah, that's pretty good. I mean, it's pretty good to have a product where you only need to convert 1% to cover the cost, isn't it? As well.
Oh, for sure. And hitting 1% is usually pretty damn easy,
So are you going to do more of that?
For sure. I mean, we've put together a list of every agency in the US. It took our lead gen team quite some time, and we're firing bullets at the moment. I mean, me being Australian, I have always done better selling to Australians and the UK, where we've got US sales staff now. Because they deal better with US. When I speak to Americans, they just think I sound funny. But so our US guys, they get a better response to Americans. Their conversion rates aren't as high as mine, but they're getting there. And we're firing bullets, doing kind of big bullets, but we're working out our best strategy in the US, and then we're gonna hit them big time.
That's awesome, man. Yeah, that's really cool. And that's what it's all about. If you really want to grow something serious, again, it's about really being willing to fire those cannonballs and bring in clients in bulk and add rapid kind of exponential growth to your business.
For sure. I mean, it gets scary at times, because you're like, you throw all this marketing out, you get so many leads coming back in, then you start racking up customers. You're like, how are we going to manage this production? Then production becomes a problem, and then you hire more staff there, and then you're like, oh my God, how am I going to pay for all these staff? And then you do some more sales, and
it balances out again, and you do another rack.
Yeah.
So I mean, that's really awesome though. Are you going to do another round to the Australians as well, or? Yeah,
I mean, we've just got a new business development manager that started, and he's like such a professional. He's brilliant. Like, I'm a software engineer. I don't know anything about sales. So I'm just guessing, and we're doing okay. Where he's just spent the last couple of weeks analyzing our funnels and our email templates and everything, and telling me what's wrong with it all. And it's great. He's like, man, you're just leaving so much money on the table there. And so he's tidying up what we're doing, and we'll get higher conversion rates. And he said, I showed him one thing that we do. So we'll send out an email, and when we have a response, I'll send back another, and if I don't get a response, I'll send back another and one more, and then I send a breakup email, basically saying, hey Josh, I haven't heard from you. I sent 3 emails. Like, I guess you're not interested, basically, and trying to just get a response. And I showed him that, and he said, what the hell are you doing? You just burnt a lead. Why would you burn a lead? He said, just send them some more information in another month, and have a reason to contact them. It's like, oh, did you see this article about whatever? Some reason. It's spring now. How's your spring coming along? Any reason to, until they tell you to bugger off and don't talk to me anymore. Keep following up with them.
Nurture them.
A funny story with that, actually. The guy that introduced me to the idea of doing postal letters, he has a marketing agency himself, and he does really high-end clients. And he was sending out a letter to a customer recently. After the 11th letter, he hadn't received a response. And so his 12th letter, he bought a waste paper basket, put the letter into the waste paper basket, and sent him that. And basically the letter was, well, you must think my letters are rubbish, so I saved you the time and put it in it for you. And the guy gave him a call and said, your 11th letter got my attention, and the 12th made me give you a call. And the company that he was after is a big solar power plant. They make solar panels, and $100 million company. And so they got some money to spend on marketing. And all in, I said, well, how much did it cost you? And he's like, well, it costs about $100 to send all of those letters, big bulky mail. And that I don't know what that customer's worth to him, but I'm sure a hell of a lot more than $100.
Yeah, it's just about getting creative sometimes, isn't it? Thinking outside of the box.
And not giving up, and just, if you find your customers and just go after them. And until they tell you to bugger off, then, keep going after them.
Yeah, excellent. So in terms of, that's been some really good stuff on business growth and lead generation and sales. What about actually, what you're doing, like your SEO strategy, pay-per-click, video marketing? What are your thoughts on, search engine marketing and kind of where it's going and where it's going to be, and like where it is now and where you think it's going to be in a few years?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's a fun industry. I do love SEO. I mean, it's challenging and it changes all the time. Google's always trying to scare the pants off people. It's what they brought in their Penguin and Panda updates 2 years back, and that scared the devil out of people, and it shook up the SEO industry like nothing else. And you got to remember that Google does not make money from SEO. They make money from people paying for AdWords. And so the more people are scared of spending their money with SEO agencies because they get unstable results, then they'll spend more money on AdWords. And after those algorithms changes come out, Google got an 8% increase in AdWords. So it certainly worked on their account.
Imagine what 8% meant to them, though. That'd be billions, I imagine, an extra 8%.
Oh, you can count on that.
They make $1 billion a day or something, don't they? Off AdWords?
A statistic I read years ago was they made 8 cents on average every search.
That's right.
And that was years ago, so must be a
billions
hell
of searches every day.
Oh yeah, I was doing some keyword research for a customer the other day, and it was personal injury in the States in some town in Florida, and it was over $200 a click. You're like, man.
Mental, isn't it?
So you consider that against a $4 letter,
The amazing thing is, though, that and I guess another thing that makes letters at the moment so great is that all the people, well, not all, but a lot of the people that used to do a lot of mail aren't mailing anymore because they've all gone to pay-per-click and social media and SEO and content marketing and email marketing, and the letterboxes are actually, at all businesses. I mean, if you think about it, if you're a business owner yourself or if you've got a business, how much physical mail do you actually get these days? It's not a lot.
Oh, for sure. I mean, like, even your bank statement comes in an email these days,
It's exciting when you get a physical, bit of mail.
Yeah, for sure. And it gets great response. The amount of people that are just delighted and go, one of my biggest customers is in Bangkok. And I went over to visit them recently, and we got introduced by a letter that I sent them. And that's the third time I've been to Bangkok to visit them. And they were again like, oh man, that letter was awesome. And, they were still chuffed about it.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. And you think that's for a lot of businesses that's going to be the case with really well structured direct mail marketing?
Certainly for business to business, I think it is. I mean, business to consumer might be difficult because it's hard to find your market. Like, if you were selling an iPod or something like that, it's like, who do you send the letter to? What, everyone in the world? Where, if you're targeting a dentist because you're selling dental chairs, it's pretty easy to find a dentist.
Yeah, so it's much easier when you can get your your head around or your hands around, or I guess essentially your mail around exactly who that target market is, and make sure you can get it to the person that can sign the check.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, and it's a really great way to get past the gatekeeper. Like, if you cold calling some firm and you get the secretary, oh, can I speak to the CEO? Yeah, no. You send them an email to info at whatever. It's just getting put in the trash. Where if you get a nice handcrafted letter addressed to care of the CEO, John Smith or whatever his name is, it gets straight onto his desk.
So we've looked at lead generation. We've looked a little bit at business development. We've looked at hiring the right people. What are some of the things that have been important or interesting, I guess, in terms of actually building a business that's spread across 2 different countries that are in Asia?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's challenging. I mean, the reason we ended up in the Philippines to start with, well, and Cambodia, is, well, I was living in Russia, working online, had all these Philippine staff working for me online, and I came to visit my father, who was living in Phnom Penh, and I loved it here. I thought it was really nice, but I struggled. We weren't at the stage where we could afford expats. We could only afford local staff, and Cambodia, just the English level is not there. It's really hard to deal with the locals in that sort of way. And so went over to the Philippines, and I was already had staff there. I hired most of my staff online and brought them into an office. And the Philippines is fantastic. Their English is excellent, and they're good hard workers. But I didn't really like living there too much. It's hot and sweaty all the time. Where Cambodia, Phnom Penh, it's a really vibrant city, and there's heaps of expats here, so it's a good community. Like, it's a lot more enjoyable working with your peers. A business development manager, we were just kicking around for an hour after everyone else had gone, and he's telling me about how to do stuff. So rather than me having all the ideas and leading from the front, and telling everyone what to do, now we've got cool staff that come up with ideas and say, oh, we should do this, and that are real professionals.
Totally. Why is there so many expats in Cambodia?
Yeah, it's a bit strange. I mean, the amount of NGOs that are here are ridiculous. Like, obviously, Cambodia had a really tough time with Khmer Rouge and the Civil War and all that terribleness. But there's so many NGOs that are here that want to help, and the people that work for these places are brilliant. They're women they're generally women. And they come and donate a year or 2 of their lives to not get paid and help people. It's fantastic. But then there's heaps of other people that just come on holidays. Like our business development manager, he came here on a holiday 7 years ago and stayed. It's a really nice place. It's happy. Everyone is really vibrant, and it's a positive. It's growing. Like, there's buildings being built everywhere. It's amazing, and I think everyone's just in tune with that, and it also feels there's less stress. I mean, I work huge hours. I work near 12 hours every day, but I'm not stressed. I'm happy and feel real balanced. I don't know. It's just a real nice place to be.
So awesome. So look, we're just kind of coming up on time here, but before we say goodbye, because we'd love to hear how everyone can find out more about you, about your business, and perhaps share some parting advice.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if anyone needs any help with reputation management or SEO or backlinks, which is our lifeblood, you can check out our website, ardormediafactory.com. That's ARDOR mediafactory.com. Yeah, I'm happy to help in any way I can.
Awesome. And what parting advice would you have for anyone that may want to start an agency-style business?
Get at it. I mean, but my best friend, he's also been building his business over the last bunch of years, and we joke about it that if we knew how hard it was, we wouldn't do it. But I mean, it is really difficult, but it's so worth it. I love my business. That's why I work 12 hours a day, not because I have to, because I want to. So, I sometimes if I have a late customer call, I wake up in the middle of the night because I'm so excited and I can't wait to deal with it in the morning. It's nice to have that
That passion, yeah, definitely. The reality is, even though part of it being so hard is part of why we love it. I think it's embracing the complexity and the enjoyment of when you crack the code of the complexity and it works is just brilliant.
Yeah, it's amazing. It's a great ride, and highly recommend it to everyone.
Fantastic. And of course, if you the details of today's episode will be in the show notes. Just head over to tropicalentrepreneur.com and use the podcast site search tool in the top right hand corner. Just search Kris's name, Kris Reid, KrisReid, and the links to his site and the main points that we covered in the show will be there. So thank you very much for sharing with the Tropical Entrepreneur Show, Kris. It was brilliant having you, my friend.
Thanks, Josh. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for listening to the Tropical Entrepreneur Show. You can download your free guide to the top 5 tools to grow your location independent business fast by visiting tropicalentrepreneur.com, and we'll see you tomorrow.